All right, Mike Evans to the 49ers. It's a 3 year, $60.4 million deal. It's a little over $60 million for 3 years. Look, man, I was always intrigued by Mike Evans potentially coming to San Francisco when the rumors kind of started early on, before free agency kicked off. Look, he's 32 years old. I understand that. He's coming off of that broken collarbone injury. He didn't play a lot last year. Mike Evans is a future Hall of Fame wide receiver, and he still has a lot left in the tank, in my opinion. The 49ers have never had a true number one receiver in the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch era. Nobody like Mike Evans, at least. This gives the 49ers a cemented, wide receiver one. This gives them a true wide receiver one that Brock Purdy can throw the ball to. This reminds me a lot of Davante Adams to the Rams last year. In fact, to be completely honest with you, I would have never thought in a million years that, if you asked me a year ago today, if you told me a year ago today that Mike Evans would be a 49er in a year's time, I would have been pretty surprised. But look, again, he's 32 years old. Dude's still got a lot left in the tank. He's a future Hall of Fame wide receiver, one of the best receivers of this generation. Pretty shocked that he left Tampa. I will be honest. I think he was due for a change, though. I think, his time there was pretty much up. But again, man, this gives the 49ers a stud wide receiver one. I mean, obviously the biggest thing will be if he can stay healthy, but that's for every 49er player. I mean, this team has been decimated with injuries. It seems like year in and year out. So, as long as Mike Evans can stay healthy, I think they can get two really good years out of him, maybe more. Just depends on, injury status and things of that nature. But, man, I love the move. I'll be honest. I think, it gives the 49ers that true number one type of receiver that they've been needing. Look, this year they were dealing with, probably a below average wide receiver room, without a doubt. I mean, they had Ricky Pearsall as their number one. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk's gone. So they signed, Kendrick Bourne. They had Demarcus Robinson here on a 2-year deal. They traded for Sky Moore, which Sky Moore really wasn't too much offensively for the 49ers. He was more of, the kick returner, punt returner, but they had nobody at receiver this year at all. And I think Ricky Pearsall is the perfect complement to Mike Evans. Obviously, as long as he can stay healthy as well. But look, man, I'm a fan of the move. I know there's kind of mixed reviews on this and whatnot, but at the end of the day, man, this gives Brock Purdy a true number one wide receiver, no questions asked. Again, this reminds me a lot of the Davante Adams to the Rams last year. I love it, man. I'll be honest. I'm a big fan of the move. I just think it gives the 49ers something that they've never had in the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan era. Read reports on Twitter about the Niners also being in on the Alec Pierce sweepstakes. Obviously, he ultimately returned to the Colts. I think he was getting like $29 million a year, but I heard and I saw on Twitter that he actually took less money to stay with the Colts. The 49ers and the Patriots, I think, were the two teams that offered Alec Pierce more money. To be completely honest with you, I'm glad that he didn't sign Alec Pierce. I'm not really a big fan of him. He's a great deep threat receiver. I get that. The Niners needed to make a splash on a big-time type of guy, and they did with Mike Evans. So it seemed to me they waited for the Alec Pierce news, and they knew Mike Evans was going to be the fallback plan had they not been able to sign Alec Pierce. So, look, I would rather have Mike Evans for the next 2 to 3 years than I would have, I'd rather have Mike Evans over Alec Pierce for the next 2 to 3 years, without a doubt. The 49ers need to get this drought over with. They need to win a Super Bowl. I think Mike Evans is, without a doubt, unquestionably better than Alec Pierce and will be better than Alec Pierce for the next 2 to 3 years. Love the move. This offense could be very scary once it returns to full health. McCaffrey, You got Pearsall, you got George Kittle when he comes back. I'm stoked for this offense going into next year. I think it's going to be electric. I can't wait until Kittle and Mike Evans are back on the field together. That's going to be very hard to stop. And the 49ers aren't done. They also signed a veteran offensive tackle. Obviously, we know the news with Trent Williams that came out today that, he's not happy with where the contract talks are and things like that, and that the 49ers are now open to trading him. We'll see what happens there. Would prefer to keep Trent Williams around. I think they will. I think they know how important he is, but at the same time, it's pretty risky paying him as much money as they will be going to if they get something done, especially at the age that he's at and the injuries that he's dealt with. Whatever happens there, but can't wait for this offense for next year. Again, the Niners aren't done. I expect them to make plenty of other moves. I know they're interested in a couple cornerbacks. We'll see what happens, but I love the Mike Evans move. Future Hall of Famer. It's going to be pretty sick seeing him in the red and gold. And again, I think nobody on this earth is more happier right now than Brock Purdy.